Welcome to my Flosstube Extra, where I will be showing you a tutorial on how to close up the bottom of your pillows, making it nice and neat. Hello, my baby. You're so cute. It's so cute! I had a few people in the comments ask if I could do a pillow finishing tutorial. So I'm going to do a very basic, minimal tutorial on how to finish a pillow. So first what we'll need is your actual finished project. This is Spring Awaits by With Thy Needle and Thread. And I've already cut it down, but I'm going to show you what we'll need for doing that. We also need a coordinating fabric for the back. So I'm going to have this as the back fabric. Then also what we'll need is a cutting mat, which I don't have here. It's somewhere else in my house. And then you'll need a ruler and a cutting tool. An erasable pen. You don't have to have this because you won't have to erase it later. A pair of scissors. Things to poke your corners out. Clips to hold your project together while you're sewing. A needle and thread. I'm using red because I want you to be able to see my stitches. You would want to use a coordinating thread that goes with your fabric. Then also you will want a sewing machine, or you can sew it by hand, but I definitely recommend the sewing machine. First, what you'll want to do is get your measuring ruler, your cutting mat, and your cutting tool, and cut all equal sides around the edge. I did about 1.25 inches all the way around, but you could get away with 1 inch or more. You'll want to do the coordinating fabric at the same time. Put both the fronts facing each other, just like that. Then what you'll want to do is mark where you're going to be leaving your pillow finish open. So I'm going to just do 2 little lines right there. That's what you'll be wanting to leave open from your sewing machine. All right, before you start sewing, what you'll want to do is clip all of your sides together to make sure that they're in the correct, your backing is in the correct spot. Double check that your fronts are facing each other. You don't want to get all done sewing and then realize you have to unpick the whole pillow. I used iron-on interfacing on the back of my finished project. You'll want to at least cover up your threads. So anything that you stuff within your project is not going to be pulling loose any of your threads. So this iron-on interfacing is really important. I ended up putting it all the way around just so none of my walnut shells would come out, which they don't, but I just did it just to make sure. So this is what that looks like. What I'm going to be doing is stitching from this blue mark all the way around and stopping at the other blue mark, leaving an opening in the pillow for us to turn it inside out. And what I like to do is have my needle all the way to the edge and then my foot down, guiding it right on the edge. From the needle to the edge of my foot, it's 3/8. So if you'd like, you can do a 3/8 inseam, but you can really do any size inseam. I like to have a big edge to work with when I'm sewing it closed. That's why I have such a big inseam. But we left plenty of edge for that, and it'll be just fine. When starting, make sure you're on a tight seam so none of your walnut shells or sawdust come out the edges. Also, what we're going to be doing is back stitching multiple times at the beginning and the end of stitching, so we have a very strong seam to work with when closing up the pillow. So I did it about 3 times. When you get to the corners, just leave your needle in, lift up your foot, turn it around, set it back down. If it needs to be readjusted, just lift it up, move it over just slightly, and then start from there. All right, we're coming to the end. We put the blue line so we remember that we need to stop there. And remember to do back stitch several times. And that's it. So we can have really pointed corners. What we're going to do is snip off the corners. This is a horrible pair of scissors. Making sure you don't cut the seam. You don't want to cut that corner or you'll have a hole. So here we have our project with the backing fabric sewn with the edges, the corners, cut and ready to turn inside out with the hole that we left in the bottom. This is going to take a little bit of work, so just be patient with me. That's why I have some tools. Usually get a good start right there and then slide this part down, and it usually comes pretty good, at least most of it. Okay, this is where you'll want your little tools to poke out those corners. By the way, this is just a chopstick. I leave in my tools. Also, you just push that right into the corner and look how good that looks. Okay, I'll keep going. Go slow so you don't poke a hole in your corner. That's why I don't use this tool right away. It's very sharp and it can poke a hole through. I've poked holes in my corners before, so that's why I start with the chopstick. It has a dull end. All right. And then if my corners need just a little bit more finessing, I'll go in with this very gently. This one needed it just a little. You can kind of put your fingers around it to mold it. All right, there we go. Inside out. Nope, right side out. At this point, you can hit it with an iron to get out a few of the wrinkles. Now, I did want to show you this. I have a big inseam right here. There's the opening, big inseam. And then when I close it up, I'm not fighting with any fabric coming out. Now it's time to stuff it. You can use walnut shells, sawdust, polyfill. I usually use a little polyfill in the corners and then walnut shells to give it some weight. This is the polyfill that you can get at any store or online. You can even get it at Walmart. I like to pull my polyfill apart so it makes it a little bit more thick. Again, using that chopstick to get that polyfill down into the corners. Really work it in there. I like to keep a little bit of polyfill for the closure, so just leave a little bit of polyfill off to the side for when you do your closure after you put your walnut shells in, so you're not having to fight with walnut shells when you're trying to sew it up. All right, all those corners feel good and tight. Now it's time for walnut shells. So I got my walnut shells off of Amazon. I will leave a link in the description, but really it's just a desert blend for amphibians to put in their cages. I use just this old cup that I can bend and manipulate. It's just a McDonald's cup. But you want to be able to manipulate, you'll want to make a funnel type spout so it goes in easily. I just grabbed a plate so the extra walnut shells don't go everywhere. But what you want to do is make a nice opening for the walnut shells to go in. And then, like I said before, a nice spout with your cup. You can also use a funnel, which is great. I just don't have one. It's looking good. You want to get it nice and full at the beginning, and then you're going to start working it in. What I'll do is I'll even just take my chopstick and stir it around. See how much it takes just to fill up a pillow. You can leave it as loose or as firm as you want. I like to do mine as firm as possible. If you're wondering if you can use sand, I probably would not recommend it. These walnut shells are good for your needles. If you put needles in, it'll sharpen them. But sand would break a needle. It would probably be a lot of dust also. And then I'm just kind of working it in. Because it needs to go into those corners too, and it kind of penetrates those corners a little bit into that polyfill. All right, I'm feeling like mine is pretty firm, especially when you spread it out with your fingers. It comes up to the top. So now what I like to do is take that little extra polyfill that I had and cover up where the walnut shells are so they don't come out while I'm sewing. All right, so that's how it should look. Okay, now we can start the actual tutorial of sewing up the bottom. Okay, so normally I would be using white thread or cream thread to sew this up, but I'm going to be using red thread to close it so you can see all my stitches. But hopefully the plan is that you won't be able to see those red stitches, only just a teeny tiny bit. Also, you want to have it double thread with a really nice big knot at the bottom. How I start is I like to go up underneath so that knot won't be seen, just right at the edge. And I'll even go underneath the fabric. Right. Well, we can start right there. Let's see. There we go. Make sure your needle is thin and sharp. All right. Now we can start. I'm going to close up that end over here so it stays tight. Now there's a technique to this. so you don't see your threads. You want to go kind of inside the seam just a little bit, and always right next to the thread. So where we're going to go is we're going to go right next to the thread on the opposite side of the fabric. You can't really go inside right there, but you're going to make tiny pieces. Take a tiny piece. So, and then see how this is on this side now? We're going to go back to the other side, go on the inseam, on the inner, straight across from there, and then take your next little piece, trying not to pick up fabric from the other side. It's not the end of the world if you do. And then when it closes, see how it closes like that? It doesn't show my thread. So you can kind of see how it is right there. And then I pull it tight and it closes my thread. All right, let's try that again. I'm on the pink side, so let's go to the front side with the project, remembering to go straight across from your thread. And taking just a little chunk, trying to stay on the inside. That was kind of a large chunk, but that's okay. Let's see how that closes up nicely. When it's all tight, you shouldn't be able to see those threads. Next, we go back straight across from where we were into the pink fabric, straight across from the thread that's coming out, taking a small chunk. It's probably like 1/8 of a piece, maybe not even that. See how that's coming together? Remember, straight across, inside seam, if possible, small little chunk. I'm going to take that clip off. All right, let's keep going. Just keep remembering to do small chunks. I mean, if you accidentally do a big chunk, it's not the end of the world. But the smaller the the chunks that you sew, the less likely anything is going to come out from your inside of your pillow. I'm getting really excited. This one's coming out really good. You're not seeing any of the red thread. So I'm getting really excited that this is coming out really nicely. All right, we're starting to get to the end. And we only have a small hole. So remember to continue just taking small chunks, and you're still able to get in there. See how that's coming together so nicely? We're not seeing any of that red, at least maybe right there a little bit. But no one would be able to see that. Or at least I wouldn't be able to see without my glasses. So, let's go straight across. Now, I like to squeeze this together to see if there's any holes right there at the end, but I think we got it. And just go across one more time. because there's just still one little hole. So I think with one more little stitch, we've got it. Of course, I'm getting a knot right at the end. There we go. All right, so right there at the end, we don't have any more holes. And now what I like to do is I like to do a little knot from just down in the seam. And this you won't be able to see, especially when you're using coordinating fabrics. We might be able to see it just a skosh with this red. So just do a little nice light knot. Go down in the same, go down near the same spot right there. And then I like to come up just down a little ways so I can cut my thread off. So, but before you cut your thread, make sure that knot is really nice and tight. And then cut. It's gone. You can kind of see that knot just a tiny bit because it's red, but if it was white or cream, you wouldn't be able to see that at all. And that's how you finish a bottom. All right, so now we have our finished pillow with a beautiful bottom, nice and neat. Now if you want to take it a little further or take it to an 11 or, you know, crank it up a notch, we're going to add some chenille trim. I think I'm going to do the yellow, which is Motherlode, but we could also do Barn Door, which would be really cute on there too. But I think the Motherlode, which is yellow, would be beautiful. So I'm just going to add that extra to the end of this tutorial. If you don't want to watch that, you can end it now and enjoy your pillow tutorial. So I like to use Fabri-Tac personally, but you can also use Aleene's tacky glue. That works just fine. I like to start at that bottom opening. No one can really see it, but it'll still be on the bottom when we start it. So no one will see it when it's sitting down. All right, so I just start with a little line of glue, making sure that I'm getting it all along the edge. And I just did a small part at first, but we can go bigger from there. I just wanted to start it. And you literally just hold it down on there for just like 20 seconds or so, and it will stay. We can just start with a little bit of this glue, go all the way to the edge, around it, and then just gently put that on. Hold it down. Can you kind of see that? And just kind of peek and make sure you don't have any spots. We just do a nice thin piece of glue or line of glue going all the way to the end. Just start slowly pushing it down, keeping it kind of on the tight side. Not too tight, but and then just keep tapping it down until making sure you're covering up all that pink from the front. This yellow is turning out really cute. We're just going to do about a half of the longer side. So it's not difficult to work with. Look how cute that's coming along. That is looking really cute. All right. And we'll just do another line of glue. Don't you love the smell of this glue? Oh, it smells so good. God. You're gonna have to put that in the bloopers. I'm such a dork. I love the smell of this glue. It smells so good. And it smells so good that you know, you'll probably be high by the end of it. So your pillow will look amazing anyways, no matter what happens to it. Alright. You might want to use this in a well-ventilated area. I don't, because I like the smell of it. It's really not that strong. It's really not that strong. All right, that is looking so good. Okay, so you can kind of see right here that the front or the back fabric is peeking. Just make sure that you get that so it's covered up with by just when you're doing your tapping. You don't want to show the other side. Yeah, just like that. So it's perfect. Now we're almost done. We just have this last leg. Just put a little sliver of glue, making sure you put it just a little dollop on the end. Very, very little. And then I'm going to take some scissors, leaving just a tiny bit of extra because you don't want it to be too short like I just did. If you do, you can always add some. No, be the wiser. Oh, I didn't do it too short. I did it perfect. And just make sure you kind of squeeze where the ends connect, making sure it looks good. You can even take an eyelash brush. A lot of people have that for when they're frogging. Take that eyelash brush and just fluff it up a little bit when it's completely dry. But let it dry for probably a good 10-20 minutes before you take the eyelash brush to it. All right. There's our finished pillow with chenille, our beautiful bottom, and we have just a beautifully finished pillow. If you liked this tutorial, make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. If you would like other tutorials, comment down below what kind of tutorials you'd like to see. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate the comments, and we'll see you in my next Flosstube.